All right, welcome back to the 47th episode of the podcast that we call The Unknown. My name is Michael Volpe. I live in Chicago, Illinois, and that's where I report from, and that is in Cook County, Illinois. And you can find my work at michaelvolpe.substack.com. My broadcast partner, as always, is Richard Luthmann, who is somewhere around Fort Myers, Florida, in Lee County, named after Robert Edward Lee. And you write at luthmann.substack.com, Luthmann.substack.com. And all kinds of stuff is happening in news. That happens every week because whenever Donald Trump is the center of attention, which will be at least 3.5 more years, all kinds of stuff happens because he is a magnet for attention even before he was president. Now, I thought it was a good time to take stock of his tariff policy because it's been a few months, one, and also number two, there's been a lot of news on the tariff policy. So the first bit of news I really like. This is interesting. $27 billion budget surplus in June. I don't know if that's going to continue, but if we start to see anything close to consistent, even close to a balanced budget, I'm all for the tariff regime, but I don't think tariffs in the long term will bring in that kind of revenue. I think this was a blip, but this I really like because, as you know, the budget is the most important thing for me. So if we're getting close to a balanced budget through tariffs, I'll support them no matter what. Your thoughts on this part?
Your favorite president, Bill Clinton, was the last to have a balanced budget. And, if Trump can, continue in this trajectory, we're heading into the right direction. The problems that are there are, I think, a lot due to the interest rates and a lot due to the foreign debt. And those are things that need to be tackled. But the results speak for themselves. Trump had made promises, and he's getting results. He's getting results in the tariff arena. This is money we were basically getting robbed. This is $27 billion that was left on the table and going to other pockets, and it's ours now. So that's a good thing.
All right. On the other hand, we have 2.7% inflation year over year, CPI. This is the core inflation. There's like 5 million ways to measure inflation. And what people like to do is pick the one that is most favorable to them. But this is, I think, one of the better measurements. It's inched up. Folks, I want everyone to understand inflation because everybody's like, oh my God, it's gone down since Biden. Yeah, it's gone down. That's like if you were driving 50 miles per hour, decided to drive 90, and then after that, you only increased it from 90 to 95, and you were patting yourself on the back because look how little I'm increasing it. And that's what everyone who's defending Trump on interest rates or on inflation is saying, and it's ridiculous. 2.7% increase after the increases we saw under Biden is very bad. People are struggling and the prices continue to rise. I don't think this is as much the tariffs as it is just the incessant debt and deficits, because borrowing money is printing money. So you're printing an enormous amount of money, and that's what's causing inflation. And so that's not great. The CBS, which is the one that did this news story, is saying it's tariff. I disagree with their analysis, but that is one analysis, and there you go. That's if you want to read their analysis of it. Your thoughts?
There are two words that were responsible for the inflation. Jerome Powell. He needs to drop interest rates. Trump has said it. Most economists with half a brain have said it. The fact of the matter is he's been, from day one, he's been against Trump and the tariff policy. If he got on board and he got on the Trump train and made tariffs the same way that the interest rates were, the tariffs are working, the interest rates aren't, then your issue, the debt that we're paying, the debt service, goes down. When the prime rate goes down, all the rates go down. Okay?
That's not necessary.
That's exactly how it works, Mike.
That's not necessarily.
Everything's based on a LIBOR rate or a prime rate.
Number one, that's not necessarily true. Number two, lowering interest rates is inflationary. The reason Powell isn't lowering interest rates is because he's worried about inflation. And this is why you have an independent Fed.
Well,
So
you just said the problem is the debt. The debt
right.
service is based on the interest rate. What are you talking about? You can't have
He doesn't
an economic
control.
argument, right?
He doesn't control the U.S. Treasury rate. He controls the Fed funds rate, which is a different rate.
And it's linked. And all the rates are linked because what will happen is when you have a better rate in one market for treasuries or someplace else, the money moves to the better rate. But when things start moving around, everything starts to correct. Oh, I'm getting shocked over here. They move my money, and then everybody corrects.
The U.S.
When Jerome Powell moves the rates, the world corrects. And that's what Donald Trump was.
U.S. Treasury bonds are based on people's confidence in the U.S. ability to pay its debts back, period. There is some link, but it is not a one-for-one link. At the same time, he announced, and I'm not even sure if this is a deal because it's very hard to know exactly what the deal is. Big deal with Indonesia. I'm sorry, but we have a deal with England. We have no deal with China. We have no deal with the EU. We still don't have a deal with Japan. He's announcing a deal that's scant on details with Indonesia. So far, we've had one deal that no one really can explain with England. This is a work in progress, but 3 months in, it's a C- at best. We'll see. The other thing is he keeps announcing new tariffs, but then he keeps pushing them back. He keeps saying that we're in negotiations, and that'll work for a while. But if we don't have a deal with Japan or the EU or China by the end of the year, this is going to be a failing trade regime. Right now, it's a work in progress, but I'm skeptical of what he's doing.
The greatest book on deal making ever written is The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump. And one of Trump's main points in that book is never be afraid to walk away from the table. Okay? So that's what Trump is doing. Trump is making deals, but he's making deals on America's terms. That's what's happening here. Trump is saying, okay, we're making a deal. I like the deal with the UK. He didn't like any
so
deals that are there. He made a deal with...
Hold on. What part of the U.S.-UK deal, in your opinion, is good for the U.S.?
A lot of the stuff in the different sectors. There's certain protectionist stuff with sectors. There's some good stuff with the farming. There's some good stuff with the raw materials. The steel industry, they're going to be obligated to buy some of our stuff. We're going to be obligated to buy their stuff. It's a balance. That's the most important part of that.
That sounds pretty vague. No one has any clue what are the details of the
Are you kidding me? The farmers group.
The farmers, what? Give me some details about the U.S.-UK deal for the farmers. You said the farmers.
They're protecting U.S. cattle. They're protecting.
Protecting? What does that mean? Protecting like what? What are they doing?
Tariffs too. It's that they can't flood the market with people from the UK.
We put in tariffs against the UK and then made a deal with tariffs. It sounds like we didn't need to have a deal. Right now, it's not clear how any of this helps anyone except that we're all increasing tariffs. And if your big thing is we made a deal with Indonesia that you can't explain.
What is Indonesia? Indonesia is the first real place in Asia to make the deal. So as they start going, the dominoes fall. The first one to the table gets the best deal. So that's what's happening. Trump is doing that. This is classic Trump. He's doing it the right way here. I can't fault him for what he's doing. And you can't put a timeline on making a good deal. Sometimes it takes weeks, sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes years to make the deal that you want.
Well, if you have to increase tariffs for years, that's not going to work.
Well, that's the beautiful part of it.
So we haven't talked about the Ukraine in a while. However, the last time we did, I did mention that peace isn't anywhere near, and thus far that's been correct. So he first said he could do a deal in 24 hours and 100 days. Both of that has blown through. It does seem like he's finally figured out who the problem is, and it is not Vladimir Zelensky, who he tried to embarrass in the Oval Office. It is Vladimir Putin. But there's an interesting thing. Melania Trump is now the heroine. I think I've said that correct. That's a female hero of the Ukraine, because Trump kept going to her. I had this great conversation with Putin. We're ready to make a deal. And she would say, oh, yeah? Well, how come he bombed the hospital? Oh, yeah? Well, how come he's bombing Kiev? Oh, yeah? Well, how come he's increasing the bombing on Ukraine? And after a while, Trump looked into what she said and she was right. And he finally started to realize that whatever Putin tells you isn't as important as what Putin does. And Putin has not decreased the war in the Ukraine since Trump came into office. He's increased it. Now, Trump did some like 50-day threat. Well, what is the deal with the 50-day threat to Putin? What's the deal with that?
Oh, he says in 50 days the tariffs are going to go astronomical unless there's a ceasefire.
Right.
Very simple.
Right. Okay. So he's threatening him with tariffs. We don't do that much trade with Russia, so I don't know if that's going to work.
Mike,
We've tried to sanction them as well.
Mike,
We'll see.
one of your favorite people, John McCain, said
He's
that
not. That's not one of them. I like McCain.
Russia is a gas station masquerading as a sovereign nation. That's
Right.
basically what they are. To control Russia, the key to controlling Russia is controlling the oil prices. That's the key to controlling
Right.
Russia. Trump knows that.
Right.
We have partners in the Mideast. But we'll get back to Melania. Melania Trump is great. She speaks, what, 6, 7 languages fluently. She's up on geopolitical affairs. Her philanthropy is just beyond belief. I can't understand. She's probably the highest popularity rating of any first lady ever. Even better than your favorite people from Chicago, and she doesn't even have a penis. So
Right.
she's one of the best people that we've ever had
That's
there.
not. That's probably not true, and I'm pretty sure JFK's wife. Oh my God, I forgot her first name.
Jackie O, of course.
Jackie was probably a lot more popular. There's been plenty.
Her,
There's been plenty
so,
of
Mike, if she can
Laura
get Trump
Bush
to broker
was
the deal, if
right.
she can get Trump to broker a Ukraine deal, right? Because 3 months ago, you and I was screaming and hollering about how Trump was wrong. You said Trump was dead wrong.
Not you and I. Not you and I. Just
you
me.
were. But
Yeah,
now Trump has come around, and the reason is Melania. If Melania is the reason why there's peace in the Ukraine, that woman deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Trump should get it first for what he did in the Middle East, but then Melania might get it next. That's what I think.
She won't be the reason no matter what, but she's focused him on the right person. But Putin is not Iran. A lot of people are saying because of what Trump did in Iran, that's going to force Putin's hand. Maybe, but I'm skeptical of that analysis. Putin is counting on him having a bigger stomach for a fight than everyone in the world. And his calculation, I believe, is very accurate because he and his allies are all dictators. So they can go and fight a war for as long as possible because they control their population, whereas his enemies, like the EU, like Trump and the US, Canada, and others, they are all elected officials. Trump can do a bombing run. He can do a handful of bombing runs. He can't bomb Russia for a month. That his base will go flipping ballistic if he did that. So any kind of military might is extremely limited. He did one bombing run with Iran. It caused some controversy, but that was one bombing run. One bombing run is not going to do it with Putin and Russia. So Putin is counting on Trump not being that tough, and we're going to see. This is his toughest enemy. Him and the guy from China, whatever his name is, 1 and 1A. Those two guys are not pushovers, and they are extremely Machiavellian, both of them. And if Trump is going to outwit them, he has to be more Machiavellian than them. And we'll see how he handles himself.
The soundbite came about a week and a half ago when he's on Air Force One. They said, "Yeah, did you talk to Putin?" "Yeah, he called me. He asked me if I needed any help with Iran." He's like, "No, Vlad, I need help with you." So I think Trump's finally starting to realize that the man in the Kremlin is the major enemy of the United States.
That's like that G.I. Joe. Remember G.I. Joe? Now you know it, but knowing is half the battle.
That's right.
So yeah, he's figured out who the enemy is. That's good. That's half the battle. Now you have to confront the enemy. All right. So we got all kinds of Jeffrey Epstein updates. It's turning into like a big problem for Trump, but it's the sort of problem that if you have it 6 months into your first year, I don't actually think it's that big a deal. no matter what his base says, November of 2026, nobody's going to be voting on whether they saw the Epstein list or not. If the economy is doing great, his party will retain, and if it's not, then his party won't. That this will affect very few votes. What it's done is it's thrown him off message, and it's entirely based on everything that his allies, and now his cabinet said. Uh, well, Bondi, in my opinion, has to go because when you go on national television in front of millions of people and say the list is on your desk, and then later on you say there is no list, you have no more credibility left. As far as Patel and his underling Dan Bongino are concerned, this is the problem with picking these guys. They were into a bunch of conspiracy theories that are coming back to bite them. They haven't done anything wrong since they've taken over, but the base isn't going to accept this because your three main people have said the exact opposite. So did you. And now you're saying there is no list. He committed suicide, contradicting things you and your base have said for 2 years. But the other thing is, this has taken on a life of its own. And it's similar, in my opinion, to the Kennedy assassination and Tupac's murder, that it's just going to create all kinds of conspiracy theories, and no one will accept the truth unless the truth is titillating. The truth, in my opinion, in the Kennedy assassination is that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. I know no one wants to hear that because that's very bland, but that's actually where all the evidence is. Yeah, he reached out to he was a communist, so he reached out to them. He's a flippin' loser. Do you really think another foreign government attached this guy or the mafia? Tupac was murdered by a guy named Orlando Anderson because they got into a fight, he and his entourage, Anderson and his entourage, earlier that night. One was affiliated with the Bloods, one was affiliated with the Crips. Obviously, a gangbanger can't be beaten up and not respond. That's death now for the gangbanger, and that's why he killed him. And his uncle is now under indictment, and he was the shot caller, so Anderson would have to get his permission. That's what happened. No one wants to believe that. They want to believe it was a grand conspiracy. The same thing here. No one wants to believe that Epstein was a very manipulative rich guy who trafficked, I guess he didn't traffic, who raped and manipulated lots of girls for himself. That there is no elite pedophile ring. They don't want to believe that. And so now the latest is that he was Mossad. And the evidence he was Mossad is that he's this wily rich guy with lots of connections in Jewish. All right. And that's anti-Semitic. All right. And Carlson said it. Megyn Kelly said it's plausible. Megyn, everything is plausible. Anything is plausible. You don't repeat something like that because it's plausible. You repeat it because you actually have evidence. Nobody has evidence. This is going to go on and on. And the one person who gave a sober analysis is Dershowitz, who's in the know. He was one of his lawyers, who said there's lots of paperwork of accusations of wrongdoing, but they're accusations and they're not proof. And it's irresponsible to release accusations that didn't lead to indictments. That's why the FBI, except now, doesn't comment on cases until there's an indictment. And here we have it again. This thing, it'll go away at some point. It throws them off message. People care because it's titillating, but it's entirely his fault because of the things he said before. Go ahead.
I'll respond quickly. I agree with you on Tupac 100%. I disagree with you on Kennedy 100%. I've read probably, I don't know, all the books, but from Rob Reiner on the left all the way to Roger Stone on the right, who thinks LBJ did it. The fact is, I think that the mafia was involved. The mafia killed Kennedy. There were two gunmen. There was a second gunman on the, right where the fence line was. But I won't get into that. I've written about it before, and we'll talk about it another day. I wrote an article about this. Actually, I made an appearance about this in January of 2023, where I said, and that's when I was working with Frank at Frank Report, Frank Parlato, and we looked at the Epstein autopsy, and we're doing a preparation for a potential documentary on Epstein. And I said that the only way that you could have someone like Epstein would be if he had a nation state back. He's at Goldman Sachs, and the evidence is that he's at Goldman Sachs, starts as an associate at Goldman Sachs, a bootlicker, and within 4 years, he's a partner at Goldman Sachs. He wasn't logging in 120-hour work weeks in finance, right? He was not doing that. What was he doing? He was getting billionaire clients. At the end of the day, there's only one billionaire client we can locate. That's the guy who owned that Manhattan mansion that was there. Where were his clients? He was being funded by a nation state. That's the only answer to this question.
So what you're saying is that Jeffrey Epstein, in his like late 20s and early 30s, who had done nothing in his life, who had shown no skills of doing anything, was plucked out of obscurity by a nation state and told that he would receive riches to do their bidding.
To think about it the other way, he was plucked out of obscurity by Goldman Sachs. Play that first video, Michael. Play that first video if you want to hear this. Go back down to that further.
Hold on.
The first cut video. It's a meteoric rise in Goldman Sachs. That's the issue. It's like taking a lawyer right out of law school and within 4 years making him managing partner of like Jones Day. It's something that doesn't happen. Hit that, and let's listen.
And there's a lot of things going around there. Who did it? And there's a bunch of different people. Did the Clintons do it? Did Donald Trump do it? Some people say that Trump had him killed. My belief, and this is just my theory, and I trying to get facts together to confirm or deny this, but my theory is that this guy was a spook. This guy was CIA or Israeli Mossad.
You're not these theories are out there.
Read it there. He's not talking.
Give me some evidence. Give me some evidence.
I'm giving you evidence, Michael. I'm giving you evidence. Out of 1,000 people, 999 associates that have worked at Goldman Sachs clock 120-hour work weeks or 100-hour work weeks. This guy didn't. Okay, that alone raises a red flag. Add that on top of that.
You know how many hours he worked, right? You know. How do you know how many hours?
You know that he's on yachts and he's flying around the world. Associates at Goldman Sachs don't do that. And then he gets made partner. You have to buy in to become a partner at Goldman Sachs. You already said he's somebody that came out of obscurity, had nothing. Where did he get the money, Michael? What nation state handed it to him, Michael? Was it his buddy with the penthouse?
Right.
His buddy with the penthouse?
Listen,
come on.
He wasn't completely obscure. His family is well off and connected. But your evidence that he's a spy is that he had a rapid rise at Goldman Sachs. I mean, that's like my evidence that you're a bad guy is that the sky is blue.
No, that's not.
They have nothing to do with each other.
You are challenging the entire fabric of the financial industry by saying that this is not a highly irregular occurrence. Okay, number one.
Well, I wasn't there, so I don't know.
The way you set this up proves my point. He came out of obscurity and went everywhere. How did that happen in the financial industry?
His family is connected.
His family's connected. That's why he became partner.
You can get rich clients if you've got a connected family.
He had one client that we can identify, Michael. He has no clients.
You're not supposed to identify his clients.
Michael, there's a list of the people that came to the island, and none of them had money with them. Are you kidding me?
Well,
Michael,
it's
like Bernie Madoff. I can give you Bernie Madoff's client list for the people he had meetings with.
Right, because Bernie Madoff was charged with financial crimes.
It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with your calendar book. Did you meet with people? Yes. I meet with people. They're usually my clients. If you're a lawyer, you're a financial person, you're an accountant, you're an architect, you're a professional person, you meet with people, they are your clients. Who did he meet with? He met with people and they weren't his clients, Michael. He didn't have money with them. That's how you prove they have money.
Right.
If you're a lawyer, you meet with a client because you have a case. When you're a financial person, you meet with a client because you have their money. Who are these people? None of them, you had no money. Where did the money come from, Michael? Nation state, CIA, Mossad. It came from somewhere. I think, Michael, it is not Mossad. I think that is anti-Semitic. I agree with you.
Listen,
it is the deep
stop. I can't listen to you anymore. That is called circumstantial evidence, and it's a ridiculous circumstantial evidence that leads to nowhere. Tucker Carlson now has America's most honest historian, Daryl Cooper, and he's going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. Cooper is the guy who said the real villain of World War II is not Adolf Hitler, but Winston Churchill. Tucker is just blatantly anti-Semitic at this point, and he's going to carry this this conspiracy theory for a while, and it's going to continue to have legs. It's not going to help Trump. It's not going to reveal any truth. And as I said, the Epstein will go down with JFK and Tupac, as there's going to be like 5 million theories floating out there, and everyone will choose their theory, and there won't be a truth because people won't want to believe the truth. They're going to want to believe whatever theory validates whatever preconceived notion of the world they have.
Listen, I think that I said it in that article. I think that Tucker's simping for somebody. I think it's the deep state, but he's simping for somebody there. You think it's a little simpler. You think that it's just ratings, that he makes things so extraordinary, extreme, and outrageous that he's going to get clicks. But he's got such a platform that he can be co-opted. I think he might be a useful idiot in the circumstance.
Co-opted in what way? In what way? He makes. You don't think he makes a narrative? What does that mean? He makes like $20, $30 million a year. What are you going to offer Tucker to co-opt him?
You give him this narrative that's outrageous, and it's a perfect narrative for like a guy like Clapper or Brennan that's going to get and Comey.
And why? What's in it for Tucker?
Because what Tucker has his outlandish story now. It's a big story. The more outlandish.
He doesn't need them to create an outlandish story. I think that Tucker.
I think he got fed this.
I think that being a contrarian took him from like mediocre ratings, which he started by losing a lot of O'Reilly's people, and then he built it up, and he gained a rep for being a contrarian, and he likes that, and he gained a rep for being anti-war, and so that's what he is. But if you're a contrarian for contrarian's sake, and if you're so anti-war that you see war everywhere, that's a huge problem. And then he developed this anti-Semitic slant by interviewing Iranians, Qatarians, Saudis, all of these guys, and he turned it into an anti-American bent by interviewing Putin, the guy from Hungary, the guy from Qatar, the guy from Iran, no one from Israel, not Zelensky. And as multiple people pointed out, he's a lot tougher on Ted Cruz than he is on the Putin, the guy from Iran, the guy from Qatar. A lot tougher. In fact, with Cruz, if Cruz said something he didn't like, he immediately interjected. With the Putin, Qatar, Iran, he just let him go. He'd ask a question, and they would speak for minutes. In Putin's case, for about an hour.
I think that his point is that unless you're like a 19th century isolationist, anti-war with all those same anti-Jewish bigotry, you're not a real American. That's the point that he's gotten into. He's gotten to about the 10% of the population, as opposed to maybe the 33% that's MAGA. A third of that MAGA population might be in his camp. I think you got 2/3 that are just way outside that. You got 90% of the population that is way outside of that.
I think it speaks remarkably about our times that you could, on multiple occasions, have a guy like Cooper who is telling you that Winston Churchill is the real villain of World War II. You can have this guy on multiple times now and continue to maintain your audience. That says a lot about the kind of world we live in now. Candace Owens claims that Macron's wife is really a transgender. She's got a massive audience. You got Tucker. Charlie Kirk, he can't make up his mind whether he wants to agree or disagree with Trump, because Trump changes his mind and he has to always agree with him. And so he goes back and forth. These are a lot of the thought leaders. Ben Shapiro, I think, whether you agree with him or not, isn't changing his opinion based on who is determining the policy. He's a lot more straightforward. I think he's built the audience the honest way. But we have a lot of thought leaders that this wouldn't have flown in the 1950s or 60s. And it's the Wild West structure of the internet as opposed to the like top-down structure, and it has both positives and negatives. There are
back in the
right.
1950s, 3 outlets. That's it. Now we
Right.
have
You couldn't start your own show in the 1950s or 60s. You could only start a show on a limited number of TV stations, and you had to work your way up, and you became a part of the structure. Tucker, Candace goes on YouTube and starts a show, and it's more good than bad. But the bad part is you can say outlandish things, and it's okay because the name of the game is to be provocative and to get noticed. All right, so that is the end, unless you've got anything else to say, of the current events segment